Welcome to an all-new episode of the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. I am Brian Ciano. Thank you so much for joining us. So we take our weekly look at everything going on in the world of combat sports. We've had plenty of action. Once again, we've had fights that we just watched. BKFC over there in Italy, in Florence, for the first time going to that country. We have fights that are coming up. We have some things to preview all around for everything. Some fights coming down the line we'll talk about in BKFC and the PFL as well. Plenty to talk about on the show today, as well as talking to some of the fighters involved in these. We're going to look back a little bit with BKFC lightweight James Get Down Brown about his great fight over at BKFC Fight Night Omaha. A great win for him to get back on that side of the ledger. We'll talk to PFL bantamweight Justin Wetzell after his impressive performance over Kasim Kasimov, getting the upset victory on short notice and moving on to the semifinals of their bantamweight tournament. And we'll even talk to Lights Out welterweight Jake Babian as he gets ready to fight once again for Lights Out Extreme Fighting coming up next week. So lots of great fighters to talk to, and we'll also preview some fights coming up down the line. As we said, thank you so much for joining us. Let's get right into things and get into some of that preview, because we got a big card coming up this week for the BKFC out there in Clearwater, Florida. We talked last week to the man who's going to be headlining that card, and that is Captain Deadpool Jared Warren, going at light heavyweight there, trying to get back into the mix to fight for his title that he lost to Mike Richmond. He's going to be going this time against Joseph the Dark Knight Creer. Now Creer is 3-2 in the BKFC, coming off a win over David Simpson by unanimous decision in December. We said Jared Warren was the former champion in this division, just lost that last December to Mike Richmond. So both these guys last fight a couple months ago getting right back into action. Warren now 7-3 in the BKFC. This is going to be a tough battle for both these guys, as you heard Jared Warren talk about on the show last week. It's going to be one of the few times he's going to be fighting a guy who is taller than him. So something different for him, something he likes to do, and something he's going to get a chance to here. While Joseph Creer is a great boxer, has a long gloved history in boxing, I think he's had some good bounce back here in the BKFC, but still not quite on the level that we've seen from Captain Deadpool. So I think Jared Warren gets the victory. I mean, even in that loss to Richmond, he looked good to start. He's doing what he needs to do, working from the outside. Just fell victim to what a lot of people have against the Marine, and that is that precision punching. All it took is, that right hand finding the right spot a couple times. It wasn't that Richmond was overwhelming him. It wasn't that he was coming forward and dominating the fight. It was that he just caught him. Right place, right time, knocked him down, knocked him out, and eventually that was the finish there. So I think that Captain Deadpool gets back on the right track here, gets the win over Creer, probably by a second round TKO if I had to pick, a mode of finish here. You also have bantamweight Royal Ryan Reber versus Matt Guyman. Guyman, the 1-0 BKFC fighter, going against Reber, who's 6-1 in the BKFC. Of course, if you look at those rankings right there for that division, Royal Ryan Reber, number 4, under Blas, under Ibarola, under Richardson. So he's right there in the mix for a title shot. He wants to get this win. He wants to improve to 7-1 and continue on his ways. Of course, the last fight was him fighting for that title against Blas. Did not go his way. Got overwhelmed like everybody has against Blas so far. So he wants to get his shot at redemption. He wants to get his shot at that title once again, just like the headliner, Jared Warren. He wants to get back in there as well against Alberto Blas and try to get that title. We'll see if he can get this win to get himself a little bit closer towards that rematch. Also on this card, you have a light heavyweight battle between the previously mentioned Jomi Escoboza against Jay Action Jackson. Jackson 5-3 in the BKFC, sneaking in there at the bottom of those light heavyweight rankings there at number 7. His last fight was against McElroy in that fight, so he is now getting back into action here against Jomi Escoboza. I'm sorry, the last fight was against Wazi. He was supposed to fight McElroy. That one fell through. Now he's going against Escoboza here. Last April, Jackson in Clearwater, so another Florida guy fighting at home here, going against Escoboza, who's a little further south, usually in Florida. Now moving up the coast here and taking on Jackson Escoboza, of course, coming off that loss to Jared Warren last June. Big guy, long reach, has been one of the more dominating fighters in this division going against Jackson. I'm going to take Escoboza. Jackson's a tough dude. I say probably 4th, maybe even 5th round TKO, but I think that Escoboza gets the finish at some point here and climbs up those rankings where he's sitting above, of course, Jackson. He's sitting there just outside that title picture himself. At number 5. Josh Dyer, number 4, going to be fighting for the title. Jared Warren at 3, who was the former champion. And then Dave Mundell, inexplicably still in these rankings. He's been the champion at middleweight for years, defending that title. Hasn't fought a light heavyweight, but we're still going to put him as the number 2 contender right now. But still, not that many guys to climb over for Jomi Escoboza. Hopefully this victory will get him, rematch with one of those guys up top to try to get back into the title picture. I'm sure that's what he's hoping for. You also have the bantamweight battle between Michael Larimore and Samuel Samples. Samples 2-1 the BKFC. Larimore also 2-1 the BKFC. He is coming off his last fight against Keith Rockstar Richardson, where he lost back in December. So he was on a nice rise, 2 wins before that, then takes a loss against Richardson, who made quick work of him. Now he tries to rebound here against another fighter with the same record in Samples. Samples, in his last fight, got the win over Livingston back in December as well. So both those guys on the same card, I'm sure they saw each other's fights. Now we'll see them fight against each other and both try to make themselves a little more relevant in the title picture of that division. Also on this card, one to watch out for, women's bantamweight battle between Claudia Zamora and Crystal the Rugged Beauty Pittman. Zamora making her BKFC debut in this fight. Pittman 3-3 in the BKFC. We've seen a little bit of resurgence from Crystal Pittman lately. She had that fight, of course, against Sydney Smith last April, where she just dominated her out there in Knucklemania in Los Angeles, a first-round TKO victory. Before that, she had beaten Tallman. Back-to-back wins for her after a couple losses. Of course, training now at Shift Combat Sports with the likes of, her boyfriend, Jared Warren, with Dave Mundell, with Jessica Borga, and many others who are, running up the ranks here as either title holders, former title holders, or in the picture for titles in the BKFC. So she's gotten better, obviously, over the last couple of years, having started to train there. We'll see if that continues and what is, next for her, because obviously fighting in a division that doesn't have a champion, doesn't have rankings, kind of caught in limbo here. Does she continue to try to, do things here at bantamweight? Does she try to go up? I wouldn't expect it, obviously, with Borga being the champion and her teammate. What is next for Crystal Pittman if she gets a victory here and gets over 500? Only time can tell, but I think that she gets the victory here. I'm not going to say necessarily TKO. She got in her last fight because that was short notice for Sydney Smith. Sydney Smith was going up multiple weight divisions. I think she gets the victory probably by unanimous decision here for this to move to 4-3. So there are a lot of great fights on the card. As we said, it is loaded down in Clearwater, Florida. This is going to be very interesting. A lot of fights that make it in the title picture if you get the win. Also on the card, we also have some battles between Rivera and Castro there. 3-0 Rivera, 0-2 Castro. That should be a very important one for Nathan Rivera. If he gets that, goes to 4-0 at featherweight. How do you not put this guy in the title mix as well? You also have a heavyweight battle between White and Meister. 2-1 White versus 1-1 Meister. Meister probably going to be a little undersized here, as White usually comes in about 20 pounds heavier than Meister does at that heavyweight division. He's kind of in that limbo of, cruiserweight or heavyweight. It can be tough for guys to get cut down to that 205, but sometimes when you're fighting guys that are all the way up to 250, 260, that can be tough to try to outmuscle them and do what you need to do when you get into the clinch at the heavyweight division. You also have a welterweight bout between Hinton and Jacobson, both guys making their debuts for the BKFC. So a lot of great fights down in Clearwater, Florida. That is going to be awesome to see. And as we said, many of these guys and girls have fought each other or know each other on this card. That Escoboza, Warren, both these guys, different fights. Both these guys fought for the title, and that's how Warren first captured it. If he gets the victory, do they rematch for a chance for the title? And Mike Richmond after, of course, if he keeps that against Josh D-Day Dyer. There are a lot of different scenarios that could be playing out here off of victories or losses for some of these top fighters on this card. But it's going to be awesome to watch it down in Clearwater, Florida. Make sure you check it out there on the BKFC app. May 2nd, 8 p.m. Eastern. Got to get involved with it. BKFC Fight Night, Clearwater, Warren versus Creer. Cosmo was supposed to fight Ciano Clark, but he had to pull off injury. You get the call. You get to go in there. What was it like for you when you got that call, jumping in there and be part of this bantamweight tournament on short notice?
Terrifying, man. 2 weeks notice against a stud, but I've been preparing my whole life for it, and I couldn't say no to the opportunity, and saw what happened. I came in there and kind of shocked the world. Not kind of, I did.
Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
We know your other brother Marv did the Knicks forever, but you've done just about every team in the league. You did games. You did Dr. J games.
But after 45 years in this crazy business, people kept telling me, you got to write a book. So I did, and here it is.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. And now we continue to talk about some of the great fights we have seen over the last coming weeks. We talked about that great BKFC Fight Night Omaha card we saw a couple weeks ago. Let's talk about one of the guys who had a standout performance on that one. Let's talk a little bit to James Get Down Brown, of course, the BKFC lightweight joining us now. James, appreciate your time. A great fight for you. We'll break that down in just a moment. But before we get to that one, I want to go back first to, probably one of the tougher losses you had. Before that, as we set the stage for this great fight against Figueroa, the Howard H.T. Davis fight, you had a great post after, very positive, talking about how, you were going to bounce back, how this is just, you thank everybody for their support. It just wasn't your night. How did you feel, with that fight? What did you feel going into it? How did you feel things were going early on? And, of course, getting, unfortunately, finished the way you did. What do you take from that fight as you have now moved forward and gotten a victory in your next one?
Well, going into that fight, I felt like that fight was my championship fight. I feel Howard Davis is one of the best in the weight class, if not the best in the weight class, although it's upset with Kai Stewart. But I felt good going into that fight. I was in the best shape that I've ever been in, condition-wise and strength-wise. As you guys know, I don't fight at 155, but I'll take any fight that I can get. But I got in there. It felt good. He was fast. He was strong. And I didn't really land before I tried to get started. So he caught me early, he hurt me, and he stayed on me. I felt like, it was a little bit of a quick stoppage, but the ref and the doctor had seen enough, so, I can't really complain about that. But I felt like, I wasn't really rocked. He flashed me a couple times, but I got up and I was ready to fight.
You were, but, unfortunately, sometimes they step in there. I'm sorry, what was it? Continue.
Yes, sir. Oh, I was just gonna say that I learned a lot from that fight. Not things that I've already known, but I was like on a 6-year winning streak. I hadn't lost in a while, and taking a loss really makes you take a step back and look at your holes and try to fix those holes and come back stronger the next time. So I learned a lot. I had fun. That was my most fun fight, honestly. And I'm always down, win or lose. I'll show up. I'm ready to fight.
Well, you tried your best, and as you said, you're on a long win streak before that fight, both in MMA and in BKFC. Your MMA career didn't start out as you would obviously want, but you had really started to find your groove there, and then continue that into the BKFC, and then you come back in this fight against Figueroa. You talked about how important that fight was against Davis, and then you get Figueroa, who's another guy who was in the rankings, who was very highly ranked, very highly thought of, and you were coming in here on short notice. How did that come to be? Tell us what it was like when you got the call to fight him, what your thoughts were in jumping in there quick against another top guy like that, coming off the loss, and how you were feeling going into the fight itself, which, to me, you dominated. When I was scoring it, watching it at home, it was every round was him coming forward and you just using that extra length, just pick him apart. And even in the fifth there, where a lot of guys would have been like, all right, I'm up 4 rounds. I don't need to do anything. Just don't get hit. You didn't coast. You tacked. You tried to put it on him. So how did you feel getting that call? How'd they come together? And then how did you feel during that fight?
Well, I'm always in Andy's inbox begging him for fights, and I tell him I stay ready. Stay ready, ain't got to get ready. So when I get the short notice calls, I'm already ready to go. Obviously, I wasn't like in fight shape, but in good shape. So I accepted happily. My coach was a little iffy about it, but I saw that I could win. He was a tough guy and a ranked guy, but still a good fight for me. We have similar styles. So, I agreed to that immediately. I went out there at the weigh-ins. This guy had like killer in his eyes. Like I saw no fear, no nervousness, nothing. So I already knew he was going to come and fight. But I got in there with him. From his physique, I didn't think he was going to be stronger than I was, but I locked up with him, and that kid was definitely stronger than me. So I was like, you know what? I wrestle, so I just use technique whenever we get in the clinch if I need to. He was hitting me with some good shots. Like the first 30 seconds, he punched me in my eye, and I couldn't see anything. So I was kind of just swinging some wild ones out there, trying to keep him at bay. But I got my vision back and kept hammering him with my jab, and that kid just never went away. He just stayed in my face. I thought they were going to stop it because those cuts were nasty, but they never stopped it, and he was down to bang for 5 rounds. In my opinion, in the fight, I thought we were like pretty even. I wasn't really sure which way it was going to go, but I figured because of the damage that I had done that I would get the victory, and I did end up getting the victory. It was an awesome fight, and man, that one's, for the record books right there, that's history.
So you didn't think so that's why you weren't coasting in the fifth. You thought that it was still a tight fight. You had something still to prove. You didn't think that you were up 4 rounds to none?
Yes, sir. I had to keep going. It's not over till it's over, and you never know what the judges are gonna say, man.
Well, I'm glad you did. It showed a lot of grit, showed a lot of toughness to come in there against a guy who was number 5 in that bigger division and put on that great performance you did. And as you said before that, you fought Howard Davis, who's number 6 in the lightweights, number 5 in the featherweights. What do you think about where this should put you now? You said that you don't like fighting at 155, but of course, those have been your last 2 fights. Are you trying to go back down to featherweight and trying to climb those rankings right now where you sit at number 5, or you just, whatever happens, happens? What's the plan for Get Down Brown going forward?
Honestly, I would like to fight anybody that's willing to fight in featherweight so I can continue to climb those rankings. If they keep giving me lightweight fights, I'm going to continue to fight at lightweight. If they ask me to fight at heavyweight, I'm going to fight at heavyweight. It doesn't matter to me. I want to fight. I want to have a good track record. I've been fighting nothing but good guys so far, so I'd like to keep that going. And yeah, I'm willing to fight anywhere, 35, 45, 55, 65, 70. It doesn't matter. I'm going to fight anywhere they ask me to. Trying to get my social media popping so I can, get more fights, be a little bit more of a seller. But until then, I'll take what they give me, honestly.
Well, you've been doing a great job with that the last couple of years, James. Get Down Brown. I mean, you joke that you've been willing to fight a heavyweight, but they're supposed to have that mega tournament going at some point this year. Put on some couple pounds, eat a couple more steaks here and there, and maybe you can get that 15 mil. Who knows? But a great performance by you, great bounce back win over the H.D. Davis fight. Now to beat Figueroa, another top 5 guy in that division. James Get Down Brown, thanks so much for joining us. We're looking forward to see you hopefully in the cage again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me.
James Get Down Brown doing his thing in that squared circle once again with that great win over Figueroa. I mean, I don't know, for a guy, I wasn't in there obviously, so it's different when you're not seeing it, but I thought he was coasting that whole fight, picking his opponent apart, did what he did. The judges agreed, great performance by him, and hopefully we get him a fight where he can climb up those rankings soon, whether it's lightweight or featherweight. Guy's doing his thing as always.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups. My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
Griffin Canning, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. They've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Fans hate them. Like, kids go to Giant games and they're like, my father forces me to come, or my grandfather was a season ticket holder. Like, no one has fun. It's a miserable place to go.
The Giants' problem has always been, over the last several years, and it's been the reason why Barkley never really got off, is the offensive line.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. Great to talk to James Get Down Brown, find out how he felt about that Omaha fight. Very surprised that he didn't think he was in control of that on the scorecards coming into that 5th round, but it makes sense now. A great fight by him on short notice, coming in there and picking his opponent apart and hopefully getting his name out there a little more to get another top-ranked opponent and climb up those rankings, because obviously a great bounce back from the Howard H.G. Davis fight, and looking forward for big things from him in 2025. Speaking of big things that we saw, let's get back into what we just saw from the BKFC this past weekend, and that was BKFC 73 over in Florence, Italy. Italy, the first time that they saw the BKFC, is at least in person, in the flesh, and they brought all the fighters over there. There's plenty of fighters from outside the organization. You had Joseph Parker, the boxing champ, was there, talking about how he loved how quick the fights were, how they moved, and how the guys were a special kind of crazy, as we've talked about. You had Alexander Usyk and Andy Ruiz, the current heavyweight champion, former heavyweight champion, both there. You had Alessio Sakara there, saying that he is going to be fighting for the BKFC at cruiserweight. I believe that technically, the story was out that he signed 2 years ago, but I guess he's finally going to fight for them. Looking forward to seeing what he can do there. The former longtime MMA fighter, former UFC fighter, fought all over the world. Now he's going to, maybe if they bring him back to Italy, you'll have Alessio Sakara fighting there for the BKFC, or bring him back over to the US. We will see. But a guy who might be fighting Sakara one day is a guy who almost crossed paths with him in MMA, and that is Chris Camozzi, who was defending his cruiserweight title against Andrea Bicci. As we said, Bicci in this fight was coming in there as a late replacement for Lorenzo Hunt. He was 3-1 in Italian, in European bare knuckle fighting, but hadn't fought for the BKFC, but was very rocky story, for literally movie Rocky, for the, of course, Philadelphia-based BKFC, who instead of trying to fly somebody over last minute from the U.S. who hadn't been training and ready, they said, let's just give a local guy a chance. And that's what they did. Italian Thunder gets in there from Florence, Italy, and gets beat by the champ. But he lasted all 5 rounds. He was tough. He was not going to go just in there and get pushed around, even though Camozzi had a height and reach advantage, and, of course, a big-time experience advantage. Camozzi gets the unanimous decision, 50-44 and 49-45 on 2 cards. Bicci kept coming forward, kept trying to put the champ on the back foot, but Camozzi, being the vet he is, did a good job using his extra length and just picking his opponent apart left and right, here and there, just getting the points that he needed to throughout the 5 rounds. Bicci tried to throw a lot of looping shots, closing the gap there. Didn't land a lot of them here and there. He landed against the champ, banged him up, cut him up a little bit, but it was all Camozzi throughout the fight. And, maybe he could have gotten Beaky the first round because he was more aggressive and there weren't as many shots thrown. But for the most part, it was just Camozzi doing his thing throughout the fight, and even gets a knockdown late in the final round as he got the stiff left jab that hit Beaky, and then he kind of took a couple steps and then went down to the knee. Obviously, something was a little off after he took that shot, decided to take the knee to recover, and wasn't going to affect the scoring at that point anyway. So Camozzi cruises on to be victorious once again and retain that cruiserweight title, and we'll see if we get that Lorenzo Hunt rematch in the next fight, depending on how long, of course, it takes for Hunt to recover from whatever injury he has and how long Camozzi wants to wait around for that. But he also said he never underestimated his opponent. As we talked about, this guy's from nowhere there, as far as in BKFC world, but he knew he was tough. He was, honored to win in Italy, where his grandfather was from, and said he would love to fight Alessio Sakara, as they were supposed to match up in MMA, and it just never happened. You also had the European welterweight title, the inaugural European welterweight title between Rico Franco and Jimmy Sweeney. Those guys fighting for the third time, as they had fought for a BKB twice, with 2019 a 6-round TKO for Rico Franco, 2021 a 4th-round doctor stoppage for Jimmy Sweeney. So who would win the final bout? It would be Rico Franco, as he is now the BKFC European welterweight champion. And just like their first fight, this one went to a 6th round. Went through 5 rounds, and, in the second round and the third round, first it was Franco coming forward in the first, getting 10-9 on just landing a few more. Sweeney kind of changed things up, came a little forward a little more, went down in the second, called the slip. Went down in the third, ruled the slip again, but he was coming out aggressive, swinging big, landing more on Franco. I thought taking the fight to him and probably taking the scoring as well. Round 4, Sweeney was coming forward. Franco catches him with the left. He goes down. This time it's called a knockdown. After the fight, he seemed to disagree. He thought the ref kind of screwed him by calling that a knockdown. He thought it was another slip, but you know what? Third time is a charm for Rico Franco. He gets the round, even though Sweeney was then coming forward and probably beating him up for the rest of the round, just like he did in 2 and 3. It has to go 10-8 at least to Franco, if not 10-9, because of the rules of boxing. So he gets that. He takes the lead. Round 5, Sweeney continues to come forward. I thought Franco probably took that one off a couple more shots and that he should have won the round and won the fight right there, 48-46. Judges say no. It's a draw. They go to the 6th, where Rico Franco decides to switch it back up as he did in the first and come forward. He does more damage. He gets the victory. A great job by him. Says he loves, he thought it was a great fight, but hopefully he never has to fight him again.
Knows how to show love to our everyday heroes. So if you're a first responder, you are in for some perks. Lots of hotels and casino offer big discounts to any first responders who can show valid work or volunteer ID. So treat yourself to a discounted stay. You deserve it. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Second game of doubleheader. We don't know exactly who's going to be in the lineup, and maybe you get an extended game number 1, which means tired bullpens and closers used up, which aren't available for game number 2, and maybe finding some extra shots here. But I do think the pitching matchup more susceptible, Tom, to runs here.
This is part of what we look at. Like I said, I don't expect both teams to win. So we have a pitcher who may not be sustainable at 28.6, but he's playing well right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one? Because you're so far out of the West, do you get rid of Booker? Because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. Great to talk about the fights we just saw in Italy. Now let's look forward to what we have coming down the line. And we just talked a couple segments ago about the Clearwater card coming up this weekend, but that is just the first in a long line of events. As you can see the schedule popping up now, we got the week after, Saturday, May 10th, they're going over to Salt Lake City, where you're going to have that battle between Richmond and Dyer for the Cruiserweight title at BKFC 74. And then we just have a bunch recently that were announced that we haven't gotten to talk about yet. So let's get into those a little bit as we get ready for a big schedule there. June, July, May, all loaded for the BKFC. And even August, they're already announcing fights over in Sturgis. They're going to go back out there for the rally. So plenty of fights throughout the next couple months for the BKFC. Let's first talk about their BKFC 75 that we found out about Friday, June 6th, out in Albuquerque, where you will have Dave Mundell defending his title against Donald Sanchez. That middleweight title is going to be on the line. Of course, Sanchez, the local Albuquerque fighter, 4-1 right now, coming off a third-round KO over Dallas Davison in January out there in Albuquerque. Going against a champion, Dave Mundell, who's 9-1. His last fight was defending the title against Danny Christie by second-round TKO in Spain out there in October of last year. It was right after they had the Hurricanes, so not all of his teams and coaches were able to go and support him like they planned, but still able to go there and do what he does, defend his title, and come back with that strap once again for Shift Combat Sports. Just doing his thing. Dave Mundell, the redneck, defending the title once again. Sanchez has been calling that for a while, saying he won that title. Now he gets a shot at it. We'll see if he can live up to the championship level that he thinks he is at this point in his career. Then, as you saw right after that, the next week, it's 8 days later, we're going to be going to Mohegan Sun in Connecticut for BKFC Fight Night, Saturday, June 14th, between heavyweights headlining that. Porter versus Klecker. Porter 1-0 in the BKFC after a first-round TKO victory over Gormley in February up there in Connecticut. Going to go against Klecker, who is 3-1 in the BKFC, coming off a second-round KO loss to Arnold Adams all the way back in May of 2022. So it was undefeated before that, lost to the heavyweight champion Arnold Adams. Then it's taking a break here. It's been almost 3 years since we've seen him. It's going to be over 3 years by the time he gets into that squared circle. We'll see if ring rust costs him against the 1-0 Porter, or if he gets back into being one of the top heavyweights in the BKFC and gets a victory over there at the Mohegan Sun. After that, by 1 week, BKFC 76 going back cross country, not all the way across the country, but pretty close, going over to Tejas. BKFC making its debut in Texas, Saturday, June 21st in Fort Worth. Going to be having Franco Tenaglia versus Tony Soto 2 for that lightweight title. Of course, these guys battled it out in Spain, where Tenaglia won by majority decision last October. Soto, that was his first loss in the BKFC. He fell to 6-1. Tenaglia rose up to 4-1 with that title. This was a great battle between these guys. It was close. It was brutal. It was everything you would want in a BKFC fight for a strap, and now they'll do it again. It was so good, they decided to run it back. We've had a lot of guys calling for Tenaglia, calling for a shot at that belt. We talked about, Kai Stewart wants to move up and do it. You talked about Palomino saying, I never lost that belt. I deserve to fight for it against Tenaglia. Even I think Austin Trout was talking about maybe having a super fight against Tenaglia. So 3 guys with either belts or former belt holders wanting a shot at that title. Tony Soto gets the first crack at Tenaglia again as he tries to rematch and get the victory this time for himself. We'll see if he can do it, or if one of those guys might have a crack at Tenaglia as they hope for, as he will defend that Saturday, June 21st. Also after that one, by a week, go not just back east, but over the pond. BKFC Fight Night in Birmingham, going back over to the UK. That one still has fights to be announced, but you always get a lot of great fights over there in the UK, a lot of British fighters, a lot of European fighters, but those Brits who have been doing the bare knuckle boxing scene for a while, getting involved with the BKFC. Should be some great battles there. Maybe we see Rico Franco defend that title. Maybe we see some of the other great heavyweights as Mick Terrell, fight over there at Birmingham in front of his hometown crowd, trying to get back in the heavyweight title picture. There are a lot of possibilities for that Fight Night Birmingham. A lot of great fighters, we haven't seen from in a little bit. Hopefully we can see them on that Birmingham card. If not, maybe we see them coming up in some of these other great ones that we're announcing and talking about here for the BKFC during the summer. Speaking of someone who had a title and wants to get back in that picture, Arnold Adams, we mentioned him being Klecker a couple of years ago. Well, of course, he lost to Mick Terrell, that title back there in December of 2023, so we haven't seen him in about a year and a half at this point. and he's going to be getting back in the squared circle at BKFC Hollywood on Saturday, July 12th. It's going to be a tough challenge for him. We're going against Leonardo Perdomo. They're not welcoming him back and giving him a tune-up fight here to try to get back in the title picture. They're giving him the guy who's the hottest heavyweight that there is right now in the BKFC. Adams, of course, the former champ at heavyweight, as we said, 7-3 in the BKFC after that loss to Mick Terrell back in December 2023. Haven't seen him since. Going against Perdomo, who is 7-0 in the BKFC, has won 5 fights since the last time we saw Adams in the squared circle. So this guy not only is running through everybody, he's doing it at breakneck speed. Great, of course, quick fights for him. So it doesn't really take much damage, doesn't need much rest, keeps getting back in there. We just saw him recently fighting for the BKFC in Hollywood, Florida. So, has a lot of experience fighting down there in the Florida area. Going to be taking on Arnold Adams, and that'll be the toughest test yet. We've had some great fights from Perdomo. We've had him running through some guys. Can he beat the former champ, though? Or does Arnold Adams get himself back in that title picture by beating this up-and-comer who has just been running through the division? All that will be seen July 12th for the BKFC down there in Hollywood, Florida. But BKFC is the only one who has a lot of fights coming up. We got a lot of PFL action. Now, we've talked, of course, about the 2025 tournament season that they have coming up. The semis are going to be going on. And then the finals, of course, in June and August. Got all those coming up. We've mentioned those cards, where they're going to be. And we've started to see some of these matchups, obviously, as these tournaments have progressed. But they have some things kicking off overseas as well. PFL worldwide, just like the BKFC. So their next card is actually going to be over in Europe, and it's going to involve Hughes and Miranda over there in Belfast, May 10th. It's going to be a great card, and it's going to be headlined by the local Belfast champion in Paul Hughes, a guy who was just fighting for that title. It's going to be back at lightweight, of course, taking on Brazilian knockout artist and Bruno Miranda. Hughes, of course, coming in here at 13-1, was undefeated before fighting for the belt against Usman Nurmagomedov. Lasted all the way, a majority decision. Even got the judges going in his favor, but he does not get the victory. Gets his first loss now. Will try to rebound at home in front of his Irish faithful against Bruno Miranda, who's been around for a long time. The guy 17-5, in his time with the PFL, fighting a bunch of different guys that guys like Aubin Mercier, Brent Primus. Had a win in his last fight against Patricky Pitbull by split decision back there in June of last year. So a tough Brazilian now coming in there against Hughes. Hughes looking to do great things in front of his country, saying that all his career, he said that he was going to headline that arena. Now he's making his dreams a reality. Also on that card, we will find Lewis McGrillen versus Alan Philpott. Both these guys matching up well. McGrillen, of course, winning the PFL Europe Championship last year in this division. Last December, now he puts his wares and his title on the line against Alan Philpott, the English fighter who's coming in here now with a 21-16 record. So a long-time MMA vet around different organizations over there in Europe, trying to make his PFL debut here. Do it against McGrillen, who won a belt last year for PFL Europe. Then you have a great card coming up in May over in France as well. You have Barnell versus Colgan on that fight, headlining that one, with Archie Colgan, the American, going overseas to face Barnell. You have the Payets versus Talib. Of course, Talib was supposed to be fighting over here for the BKFC in that championship, in that title of that division, the world tournament that he was supposed to be part of. Instead, fighting on this card now in France. You get Javi Rora versus DeFranco as well in a lightweight battle. Well, one of the fights everyone's going to be excited to see is, of course, Patrice Evra, who's now announced to be making his PFL debut on that card. Of course, he is long-time, high-level football, if you're over that part of the world, or soccer to us in the U.S., long-time career playing for Man U for 273 appearances, Juventus, Marseille, West Ham United, appeared for the French team a lot. So he has a long soccer career, now bringing those soccer-style kicks that we see from the Brazilians over to the PFL here in May over in France.
You don't think that there's something to the fact that they blow all these leads against the Edmonton Oilers? It's like the Oilers could be down 4 goals and they come back like it's nothing.
We got a series now. I think this thing is going to reset, Scott. I think home ice advantage is going to hold true. in this series. I think I told you that last week. I'm expecting this. I picked the Kings in 7 before the series started, and it's like plus 700.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
It's so crazy that you get both ends of that spectrum and the narrative trying to be correct in doing so and to make a statement for engagement. You're wrong, you've been wrong, and deal with the reality of the situation.
All of the people that analyzed the draft mocked one in the first round, and even could he go to the Giants at number 3 or trade up back in that round. They got Dart, they didn't get Sanders, and the fall was on at that point.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to get a bunch of upsets. We're going to get a lot of craziness. Didn't happen as well. I mean, over the last calendar year, Sam, I don't ever recall 6 or 8 months of time in sports where the books lost, but here we are.
They estimate FanDuel and DraftKings lost $185 million combined for March Madness. So estimating not just that they didn't have a profitable March Madness, but it was a huge loss for them as well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to the Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. And if you've been watching the show in the last couple months, you know how much we've been following the PFL 2025 tournament season. It's been awesome. So many great things that have been going on, so many great fights. And one of those great fights was Justin Wetzell getting the upset win over Kasim Kasimov in the first round of the bantamweight tournament. We bring Justin on now. Justin, thanks so much for joining us. This was a fight. Obviously, Kasimov was supposed to fight Ciano Clark, but he had to pull up injury. You get the call. You get to go in there. What was it like for you when you got that call, jump in there and be part of this bantamweight tournament on short notice?
Whew, man. Hey, from what I heard, he was supposed to win the whole damn thing. But no, Brian, it was crazy, man. I've been training since I was 18 years old, and I've been wanting to fight in the major leagues for a long time now. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I've been passed up, and I've been undersold a lot by a lot of different companies and people, and PFL called, gave me that chance. Hey, you want to fight the 16-1 Russian on 2 weeks' notice? I couldn't say no. I couldn't say no to that. It was terrifying, man. 2 weeks' notice against a stud, but I've been preparing my whole life for it, and I couldn't say no to the opportunity. And y'all saw what happened. I came in there and kind of shocked the world. Not kind of, I did.
Well, you took the opportunity and made the most of it. As you said, he was a big favorite because of you coming in there late. You missed weight a little bit at the weigh-ins, but of course, I'm sure it's a lot of because of just the short notice, not having the proper time to cut that weight. Do you think that affected you at all? Do you think your performance was what you expected and things went how you wanted with all the fighting in the clinch and just trying to get the upper hand in that, or was there kind of something else you would have liked to show and that you couldn't because of the short notice and for the weight cut, the prep, and all that?
Yeah, I did some calculations with my nutritionist on the weight cut, and I do believe I could have made the weight. I started my water cut just a little too early, which put me into a really bad retention mode, which made the weight cut absolutely terrible. I've been competing since I was a kid in wrestling, man. I've never missed weight ever in my life. So to step on the scale and see the 138, I did not like that at all, man. And I know the story coming in was I was a lot bigger than my opponent. My body would have looked the same. Most bantamweights in the world, I think. And realistically, I love this matchup against Ciano. He was a heavy wrestler, fighter, much like myself. So stylistically, I knew I could keep up with him. I could wrestle with a matter of how my condition up in a wrestling heavy fight. And I thought after the first round I was going to be dead exhausted, tired from wrestling this dude, and we'll just see after the first round Still, I was good. Even really, really bad weight cut, I reloaded properly. After that first round, I was like, I can beat this dude. Definitely.
Well, you showed that. I mean, even the judges felt that way. You know, when I scored it, when I was looking at it, I thought that you guys kind of traded on the first and second round. One got the other, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
You know, and then you took the third clearly, and that was the difference. On some of the judges' scorecards, they even had you 30-27 all the way, that you took all 3 rounds. How did you feel as you're going through those rounds? I mean, obviously, you know, that style of fighting, it's not one that's necessarily clear cut. And, you know, Orlando, you guys didn't have the in-fight scoring like you have in some jurisdictions around the country in MMA now, which for me personally, I love. I think that we should be doing that everywhere, but, you know, some places still haven't gotten up to the times on that. But how did you feel as the fight was going on? Were you confident that you were still in control the whole time? You felt like the judges were going to see what you were doing and give you the edge? Or, you know, when you got to that time and it was time to read the scores, was there a little hesitancy in knowing that you definitely had it or not?
Yeah, I was really nervous, man, with how long they were taking to render the judges' scorecard. After the fight, though, I was very confident I won. Like you said, the first round was super close. Going in the fight live, I got taken down and jumped to Gilly in the last like 30 seconds. And after that first round, I was like, I think I lost that first round because he got the takedown. So going into the second, I had myself down 1. The second round, I felt I clearly won. I landed a lot of elbows, did a lot of damage, got the takedown. The third round was a third round. There's no way I didn't win that round, especially with the way it ended. So when they were rendering the scorecard, at first they said 29-28, and I was waiting to hear. I was like, oh, here comes the splitter. Like 29-28, Kasum, 29. But as soon as they said 30-27, I knew it was unanimous. And I'm like, I definitely won at least 1 round. So once I heard the 30-27 unanimous, I knew it was me, man. I knew it.
Well, you see right there the excitement, how pumped you were. You talked about people underestimating you. It's been a long time coming for you to get this chance in one of the upper organizations, and you made the most of it. Now, hopefully, you'll continue to do that as you move on to the semifinals here against Gutierrez. I will talk about that in just 1 second, but we saw you coming in with the eye patch and with the headset there. For people who don't know, that the Dragon Ball Z Scouter, is that something where you're a big Dragon Ball Z fan? All your time growing up, or is that just part of the fight persona? Tell people a little bit more about this, accessory you rock coming into the cage.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, man. I do like Dragon Ball Z, but if I'm being real, man, I'm a Dragon Ball fan first and foremost, and that's honestly what I love so much about this tournament. The whole point of Dragon Ball is Goku winning the World Martial Arts Tournament. And what am I in right now? I'm in the World Tournament, baby, and I'm going to be the world champ.
Well, you certainly are. Now you go against Mendo Gutierrez, another guy who was coming in here and making an upset. He talked about in his post-fight about how Nunzi, disrespected him, didn't think anything of him, and then he got choked out. What did you see from his fight, and what are you expecting as you get ready for these semis in a couple weeks?
I'm expecting a tough, gritty fight, man. I know Mondo. I've been following him for a bit on the regional scene. Me and him were actually going to fight not that long ago on a regional promotion. Didn't go through, and now we're here. Here we are on the major stage. Fighting to get to the tournament finals, man. It's crazy how things turn out like that, man. That being said, though, I know this is going to be a very tough fight. He comes forward, he hits very hard, he likes to wrestle, he likes to do a lot of things I do, but I think I'm gonna just be better everywhere, man. I'm just gonna be better everywhere and win this fight and go to the finals and show the world I belong here.
And we talked about that short weight cut, about how that can affect a guy you were worried you might gas out after the first, but he didn't. How much do you think training out there at elevation in Colorado, gives you that advantage over some of these guys?
It gives a massive advantage training at elevation, but also more so than that, man, what made me get through that was my 15 years of consistent training since 18. I'm 33 years old now. I've been doing this my whole life. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but if you've been training your whole life, you can wrap things together in about 2 weeks and put on a performance,
It's Justin Wetzell pulling the upset in the first round of the PFL Bantamweight Tournament. Make sure you check him out in the semis coming up later on this summer on the PFL 2025 Bantamweight Tournament. Justin, thanks so much.
Let's go!
Great to get to know you, my man.
New to social casinos? You're in for a treat. Most online casinos offer bonus cash or coins just for signing up. That's your own little participation trophy. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Fans hate them. Like, kids go to Giant games and they're like, my father forces me to come, or my grandfather was a season ticket holder. Like, no one has fun. It's a miserable place to go.
The Giants' problem has always been over the last several years, and it's been the reason why Barkley never really got off, is the offensive line.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one? Because you're so far out of the West, do you get rid of Booker? Because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Great catching up with Justin Wetzell there from the PFL, the bantamweight there, continuing moving on in that tournament. Now we're going to go a little further west. And we're going to talk to Jake the Babian, who's going to be joining us once again out there from Cali, going to be making his second fight for Lights Out Extreme Fighting, coming up here May 10th on Lights Out 24. Jake, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time, man. How are you feeling now as you get ready for this last week of training, run up to this fight here for your second fight in Lights Out?
Thank you guys for having me on again. Nice to see everybody. We're feeling good. Weight's on point. We've had a great camp. Brought in some special guys to work with me, really emulate the fight. So we're kind of covering all the bases. Other than that, my team, too, we've got a couple guys on the card in the gym, so we've been doing the camp together. And you know how that can be. It's nice to have a couple guys by your side running those sprints, cutting that weight, all that stuff.
I'm sure, especially when you do those cuts, people going through that misery together. It helps you guys band together and be your best. Hopefully we get to see that again. I mean, I don't know how you can really improve upon the first fight you had with Lights Out. 15-second TKO victory that you had in December. It was, one of those, don't blink or you're going to miss it over Jose Matos. How did you feel coming in there into that fight? I'm assuming pretty good. They just came in there and steamrolled the guy. What was going through your mind as you're going in there? And what do you do after that? Because, you talk about the adrenaline dump of a fighter. A lot of times you get that adrenaline going in the beginning and then eventually it wears off. But when you beat a guy in 15 seconds, do you have to go run laps or something around the arena to get rid of the rest of that adrenaline?
There's always room for improvement. And I was fortunate with the 15-second finish. It's no joke. It's no secret. But I do come out like a mad dog for the first minute. You got to make sure that everything you do is perfect because you only have to make one mistake. I like to use my offense right off the bat, just kind of gauge my distance. And I saw a lot of openings in the prior fight footage and stuff, so I knew where my angles were and I knew what to do. And again, my coaches really helped me kind of put all that into reality.
Well, now you're coming in here against Marcus Walton in your next fight. How are you feeling coming into this? Obviously, you said you feel good. What have you seen from him as you study the tape? What are you looking forward to? You just explode again and, that's your style. You're going to do your thing. It doesn't matter what he does? Or what have you seen as you watch the footage of him getting ready for this second fight?
So, yeah, I've analyzed that footage. I, again, see my openings. I see where I can really capitalize. Good thing for me is my coach has already done a camp for this guy. Our teammate Joey Davis has fought this guy for his 5th pro fight, so we kind of know what to expect. He's a hard hitter, athletic, but we can wear down that gas tank and get those hands down, and land some big punches to the head. But I'm comfortable wherever the fight goes. I'm really looking to put on a show for the fans. Expect a lot of
Joey
violence.
getting the victory over him, the round 1 TKO over there in Bellator. So obviously, whatever the fight plan of your coach worked the first time, we'll see if you can, you can do it again. Follow that fight plan to perfection, like your teammate did. You're on a 4-fight win streak now. How you feel? How was the first experience with Lights Out? How excited are you to get back in there? And if you get this victory, you go to 5. Is your phone number out there for these people to call you? Start bringing you up to these other organizations. What's going on? Why is the Babian not getting the call up here?
I think Sean's got it all figured out, but I'm really happy at Lights Out. I think that the promotion has got a lot of potential, and I'm happy to be part of the early stages. Everybody I've worked with has made the experience just very smooth for me, because at the end of the day, it's a lot going on. So just to get in there, do my weigh-ins, fight, and have them take care of everything else makes it a smooth time for me. So Lights Out, I'm definitely going to continue fighting for them till we get that call.
Well, we're looking forward to this fight coming up next week, and we're looking forward to what is coming down the line for you. What's the plan? Obviously depends on what goes on the fight, any damage sustained, injuries that you got to heal from. But are you trying to get back in there quick and early? If you get a nice victory, you don't have any major injuries and stuff to heal from. What's your ideal time frame coming down 2025 here? Because you had a couple fights in 23, 1 and 2 in 24. Do you want to pick up the pace a little more as you can keep getting better in your career here?
Expect to see me as much as possible. I'm gonna take every fight I can. I'm hungry. I'm young, and I'm ready to go. So, like I said, I'm just here for violence, and I love the competitive edge.
Well, Jake the Babian, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck against Wilson at Lights Out 24 coming up May 10th. Everyone, make sure you check it out. And thank you, everyone, for coming on and watching here on Combat Sports Report here on SportsGrid. We'll catch up with you next week, breaking down everything going on in the world of combat sports.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
I told you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a 7th-round
There were
pick
two
who didn't even play good.
quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.